In today's video, we'll be going over the best and worst legends in Apex Legends Season 19. Now, this is of course based off of ranked and also pub, so let's get right into it. First up in our D tier, we have Ashe. Now, Ashe has been one of those characters that has a really cool kit. The problem with her kit is so limited in what you can do with it, and there hasn't been really any changes to her kit since she's been officially released. Now, her Ashe ult is pretty cool, where it's literally a one-sided wraith ult. If you hit it, you go through it, and can be very useful to getting into certain situations, getting out of them. And also on top of that, just repositioning yourself real quick. The problem with this Ashe ult is, though, if you're versing people and getting chased by a 3-man, or you're just trying to get away from a fight, you need to reposition yourself. If you're versing a good player, they'll probably follow you in your ult, since the timing that you take and they take is practically the same to getting close up, so they can literally just knock you once you get to the other side of it. Now, you do have a snare that counter that, however, you only have one of them, and that is the problem. Her tactical is literally a one-sided nade that literally is so clutch when you need it, but if you waste it early on, it literally does not matter. So the one thing they really need to do if they want to make Ashe an actual better legend is give her 2 snares and make your Ashe ultimate a 2x activate, but make the first one when you activate just longer, and then the second one shorter. So let's say you pop one Ashe ult, you pop over to a different position, right? And of course, you know the guy's probably chasing you. You can pop another one if you need to, and of course, as soon as you pop that one, it will instantly close. I feel like that would be a really unique way to make your ultimate much stronger, but at the same time much better too. But of course, you're gonna have to make it so the ult is actually longer to get, but it's gonna be much more valuable in the long run. Next up, we have Seer. Seer is a D tier legend, and I'm not gonna lie, man. Seer, when he was first released, was an absolute mad lad to actually use. He was insane. He had damage with his tactical. He can scan you with his tactical. He can completely negate you from rezzing and also healing. And of course, his ultimate was literally wall hacks. You literally had wall hacks and a whole 360 degree, which is just pure madness. Now, the crazy thing about this is he's been nerfed to beyond his kit his first release. Like, literally, his kit is not the same from what it was originally. Now, his ultimate's still pretty good. The problem with it is, if you're literally like crouch walking, it won't pick you up. If you're running around, it won't matter, because the fact that this ultimate only tracks your footsteps now and doesn't put a target on the enemies. Now, it's still pretty good, I'd say, in certain situations. Definitely one of the better things, but it's honestly not that insane. And the same thing is for his tactical. His tactical is very strong. However, it does not no longer negate or like show people for that long of time. So it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, this is cool, right? But like, yeah, it's like if you could play anyone else, you could play Bloodhound and be better, or even Crypto, which is the next person on our list. Now, Crypto is honestly not a bad legend. His actual drone is really the problem with his kit, because it's very connected to his kit. That way you can't actually use anything else. Like, they really need to change Crypto. Now, I got a cool method of actually how to fix him, which I'll explain in a second here. But let's go over the basics. Of course, you got a drone you can throw, scans everyone around you if leaving the air. It's very useful if you want to put it on top of the building, so you can see everyone run around the building when they're fighting, so you can track them, which is pretty cool. And on top of that too, that it can actually get scans for where everyone's at, and also like banners, see how many people are around you, all other jazz. And his ultimate, now the big thing with this actual ultimate is it's very limited to his drone, so you have to pull out the drone, place it somewhere, and then activate it. So that's why it's usually better to just place it out. Now, here's a good way to change it, and I want to quickly go over this idea. I was talking with chat. First of all, you make his passive a 360 mini map you get on the map. So like, you say a little circle around you within a certain amount of meters would normally be for his drone, and if there's anyone around you, it'll glow red, which is pretty cool in itself. And then the second thing too, you can actually have his actual tactical change. Now, his tactical change would be the same thing. You throw the drone out, you maybe go fly around, do your thing, but as soon as you pull it out, you no longer get your passive. But on top of that too, you will be able to see people within that actual range of actually the drone. So that's pretty nice. That's a good way of changing it. And finally is his ultimate. What you should be able to do is literally actually ping a spot, and then when you click the ultimate, it'll literally go to what your ping is, and then it'll just hit everyone in that area. Or that you can just literally activate your ultimate, and instead of activating the ultimate from the drone automatically, your guy will just hit his arm, activate an EMP. It won't affect you and your team, but anyone in that building will be affected, or wherever you are. Which I think this would be a really good way to make just Crypto way better. But yeah, what do you guys think about this change if they were to actually do it? Next up, we have our first C tier legend, Vantage. Now, Vantage is one of those legends that's pretty cool. She literally has an octane pad as her tactical where she flies around. However, if you do use it, you can't get shot out of the sky. So it's like one of those things where like, yeah, it's cool and all, but also it leaves you very vulnerable at certain periods of time. And her ultimate's pretty nice because of the fact that if you hit 2 headshots, you're gonna knock somebody in blue no matter what. And with purple, you're just gonna do insane amount of damage, because it doubles damage to triples damage depending on how many marksmen you actually hit on him with actually the ultimate, which is pretty nice in itself. However, her kit kind of stops with all the positives there. She does have a passive where you get 3x, where you can like see far away, which is cool, but not many people really utilize it. And also the second thing too is that her passive allows you to see what armor the enemy team has. But honestly, with any game sense, if you just tickle the team a little bit, you'll be able to see or just know what they have just based on the information alone. So it's kind of one of those things that's like, yeah, it's a cool actual way to see your enemies, what they have. But at the same time too, you can shoot to find out. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those things I feel like they need to actually change Vantage to make her better. And that's why she's like at the bottom of C tier. Next up on C tier, we have Ballistic. Now, Ballistic is a very interesting legend. Like, he has a very cool ultimate where you activate, you get unlimited ammo, you get a movement boost, you get faster reloads, and all these other benefits for a certain period of time. But the problem with him is that that ability is so useful, but also so, like, not really useful at the exact same time, because like, why would you have unlimited ammo and all this other stuff when there's other abilities in the game that are much better? Like, maybe you play Conduit and ranked because of the fact that you can actually get shields for your teams instead of having infinite ammo. Now if you're gonna hit your shots, you're gonna hit your shots. The only reason you play Ballistic is because you're with it, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time too, like, there are benefits to actually playing him. So maybe if you want to pop up and go insane, you can. He actually does have the best actual tactical for 1v1ing, where you literally shoot your enemies. Of course, the more they shoot, they actually have to have a recoil, a cooldown on their gun, and which can leave them very vulnerable for a certain period of time. So that is a nice thing about him. But besides that though, there really isn't much else to actual kit to actually say that's really positive besides, you know, the stuff he has. So he isn't really a very useful legend in an actually rank just because of that reason. Next on the C tier is Lifeline. Now, Lifeline is a very interesting character. She has a very good kit. However, her kit is super outdated. Now, let's go for her ultimate, where she calls in an ultimate for a drop, and the drop will give you, of course, batteries, cells, and better armor depending on what you currently have. So if you have white, it'll give you blue, and if your whole team has purple, it'll give you gold, which is pretty nice. But the problem with this ultimate is it used to actually only give you purple and above, but now it's based on what you already have, which is kind of unfortunate. I feel like they should make her ult just something where it gives you purple and above no matter what. But yeah, just something to criticize. And then the other thing too is that her drone, of course, gives you infinite heal for 20 seconds. I think it's 20, I could be wrong about that, but it's a pretty good tactical. The problem with it is it's pinned in one place, so it's good for like 1v1 fights. But besides that though, that's kind of all the good things about her anyway. You of course have like the support bands for passive, and you of course can craft teammates banners, but she really just needs a whole revamp to her kit, and that's what I think would make her honestly better. So that's why she's kind of like near the bottom of C tier. Our next C tier legend is Mirage. Now, Mirage is one of those characters that can be really fun to play, but he also has got a kit that's very mischievous and chaotic, especially his ultimate. His ultimate is probably the most annoying thing you can go up against in any 1v1 scenario, because literally it's the perfect thing to 1v1 with. Let's say you're about to kill him, right? He pops his ulti and spins it around you. You don't know which one he is. And then he has full control of the situation because you do not know which one he is, right? So yeah, his ultimate's insane, especially in ranked. If you utilize it right, you can pretty much make yourself impossible to find, which is really nice, and then you get out of any situation or take advantage of any situation if you control it right. That's pretty cool. But he isn't like a very high tier legend because of his kit though, because his tactical is really what limits his kit. His tactical literally lets you summon another dummy himself, which can debate people, right? But honestly, it's not that strong. It's kind of like one of those things that you use here and there. You might fool someone, but if you're a smart enough player, you won't shoot a Mirage decoy because it's blatantly obvious. Now, his passive with resing is actually really strong, especially like in the new LTM, but like besides that though, it's not particularly the best. Like, it's honestly better to use like a Newcastle res or even a Lifeline res over Mirage's kit. But the biggest thing about Mirage is literally just the pure chaos you can do with him. Now we got our first B tier legend on the lowest rank is Octane. Now Octane is one of those characters that's honestly the embodiment of a double-edged sword, but literally it hinders you so much. If you use this tactical, you of course get a movement boost for a certain period of time, which can be very strong. However, it takes a quarter portion of your health away. Now, yeah, that's the problem with it. It takes so much health away, it's not even really worth using. So like, if you're playing pubs with Octane, he's not bad, but if you're playing with him in ranked, it really doesn't benefit you, because literally you're putting yourself at a disadvantage every time you go into a fight, unless you're going up to finish the fight where maybe you crack the kid, right? You know, he's won. You get close and personal with his tactical. That's the only time I'll ever say like that's a good idea, or maybe you're trying to get close and personal really fast as you can, but every single time you use it, you will put yourself at a hindrance every single fight. Now, his Octane pad's probably the best thing in this kit by far, and it really just lets you get in a close up situation or take advantage of an opportunity to take height or take a positioning spot. But yeah, the problem with this though is this Octane's kit literally hinders himself so much. That's why he's at the bottom of B tier. He's a fun legend, but besides that though, he's very limited in what he can actually do. The next legend on our list in B tier is Mad Maggie. Now, she's honestly probably one of the better legends in the game right now with her kit. She's literally an Octane without the double-edged sword effect, where every time you use your abilities, you'll get a movement boost while carrying out shotguns. Your Wrecking Ball literally comes to you so fast that you literally can just use it every single fight. And of course, gives you a movement boost. And on top of that too, she probably has the strongest tactical in the game by far, where you can literally place it into a door, burn enemies, force enemies out of certain positions that give them cover. It's literally one of those things that if you utilize her drill right, you can win situations that would normally be not winnable because they're holding cover. So that's the good thing about her. And she's honestly just a fun legend as well. And you got to keep in mind too, anytime you get somebody low with them, you can of course see them with the Warlord's Ire of her passive, so you can hunt people down that you know you need to finish up the fight quick. And of course, she gives you access to that with her actual kit. And you running a shotgun is a must with her, but honestly, doesn't always really require it. It's the same thing with Rampart. Like, yeah, you get more ammo with LMGs, but you don't have to run in LMGs. It's kind of something that's sometimes, if it makes sense, if you're good with them, use it. If not, then don't touch it. And shotguns this season aren't really meta, so doesn't really make sense if you actually use her in the first place. That's why she's on the lower side of B tier, right next to Octane. The next legend we have in B tier is Gibby. Gibby is honestly such a good legend, but the problem with it is he's honestly gets countered by Mad Maggie, but also Gibby isn't really a strong legend to use this season because what he relies on is playing his dome and having a shotgun to go with it. And if I told you earlier, shotguns in season 19 are not particularly meta. It's better to run SMGs. So he hasn't been used a whole lot. You might people see him using here and there. And the reason why they use him is because he's so good with his ultimate. His ultimate allows you to just absolutely flush out everyone in zone 5. Same thing with Bangalore ult, but Bangalore ult's just way better, and also she's definitely the better legend this season by far, which we'll get into a little bit later here. But he's still a very good legend nonetheless, because you can still like activate his dome, reset your team if you control it right, and if you of course drop your ult on you, the course have to challenge you or they have to back up, so it makes him really have to put pressure in the moment. And honestly, he's still a good legend nonetheless, but he's definitely not a meta legend. That's why he's in B tier. The next legend in B tier is Rampart. Now, Rampart is one of those legends that has gotten really a lot of love recently with all the buffs that she's actually gotten. She's actually gotten her actual ultimate from being one thing you can just pull out to actually now post it up somewhere, get infinite ammo. There you can use it to walk and go yourself, which is really insane. It's like a Halo minigun, which is just menace to deal with, especially since the meta now is run with catalysts and stuff like that. You can literally just blow down doors with absolute ease. Same thing like the fuse tag, which is pretty good. And of course, her actual walls are insane now. They're like Fortnite walls where you can literally just build them instantaneous. They used to have like a delay, but now they got so much of a buff that you can literally just post them up and make cover out of thin air, which is just so overpowered. Now, the only thing that's really holding her kit back right now is her passive. Her passive is like gives you more ammo for LMGs, but honestly, if they change that, I could honestly see her being an A tier legend, but that's what's holding her back. Next up on B tier is Newcastle. Newcastle has probably one of the weird kits by far in the game. Literally, he has the lifeline knockdown shield as his actual passive, so anytime you start resing somebody, you get a shield up. Whatever your knockdown is, it's going to of course represent that. So if you have gold, your course is going to have gold res, and then on top of that too, the teammate will of course get 50% health back and 75 shield. I think I have that in reverse. If I'm wrong, you correct me. But the big thing with this though is that Newcastle, as soon as you pop that actual passive, as long as somebody is smart enough to understand, like as soon as he gets the person up, you can re-knock that person, if they don't have gold that is, then they can re-knock them and of course shoot you and might one clip you in the process. So it's not a very good actual passive, and it's not as strong as a lifeline knockdown shield where you can play around with it, but he's still pretty good. The big thing though with him is actually his tactical, where you can take advantage of it, abuse it to control situations to give you cover where there normally wouldn't be, like with Rampart, but also use it to actually protect yourself and your teammates and make yourself with the ultimate an actual base of operation to post up and certain positions in zone that you might not have covered normally, but you can make cover out of the actual ultimate, which would be normally not winnable game, could be a winnable game. You know what I'm saying? So Newcastle's at the top of B tier, but he hasn't just entered in A tier just of yet. Now we're finally in A tier. Our first legend is Bloodhound. Now Bloodhound has been one of those legends that's been the most easiest to play and learn, and also has been the most popular out of all the scan legends besides Seer when he first came out. And mostly scan legend have kind of died down on usability and like been playable, so no one really runs them anymore besides scanning the beacons to see where enemies are at. And Bloodhound is still very good, where you have his tactical, you can scan 180 in front of you within a certain amount of range. You can also scan the ravens too, which will point to a certain direction where enemies are at. And of course, when you scan the raven, it will actually give you your tactical back, which is pretty nice. So that's pretty good itself. You got like a whole rework to this kit. His ultimate is pretty good too, where like you pop it, you get movement increase, you can scan scan where enemies are at. However, it isn't as consistent as the past, where like you get 3 scans within his ultimate, which are way faster. So yeah, and you can still see footsteps and track people, but Bloodhound and Scan Legends overall haven't been particularly the most meta defying right now, just because you can play like so much other stuff and it'd be just better to play them. Now, he is still good, or she actually, wait, I don't know. Either way, he's still very good to counter Bang, and that's why I'm still putting him in A tier, because he can counter the meta for actually scans and smokes. Our next legend in A tier is Revenant. Now, Revenant is probably the coolest legend to use right now solo, because literally, if you use his ultimate, you get 75 shields on top of whatever you have. So that means if you have red, you get 300 hit points, which is insane to think about. As long as you keep the fight going and you keep killing people, the ultimate will keep lasting longer and longer throughout the fights, which is pretty insane. Now, of course, the other thing you have access to also on top of that is actually his tactical, which is the Octane pad that is pretty insane too. So literally, it's like a better vantage tack and a better Octane pad, but you get to use it very commonly, which can be very nice for actually going deep and going into a fight and finishing up a fight that you normally wouldn't be able to close a gap fast enough. And it's better used in actually the Pathy Tactical. Like, Pathy Tactical takes a lot more skill, but this one is just a lot more easier to use, so you have a lot more opportunities to create with it. So just one of those things to keep in mind. So yeah, then another thing too, of course, got his actual new passive, which of course can wall climb up heights insanely. And on top of that too, you actually have the new passive, which lets you see where enemies are low you shot at actually go. And of course, it'll let your teammates know too if they actually get them low, so that way you can hunt them down, which is similar to that of the Warlords are that Magmegi has, but it's more of a team effort than just a solo kind of thing. And so that's why Revenant is just so good right now. The next legend in A tier is actually Valkyrie, surprisingly. Now, honestly, I would have put Valkyrie at high A tier, or honestly an S tier legend, just because of the fact that how good she is for rotating, repositioning with her kit. But honestly, a lot of people are kind of sleeping on her right now, so I'm only going to put her down below just because of that reason exactly. Like, if you took away the evac tower in Apex Legends, everyone would be using Valkyrie in ranked, and that's just the honest truth. And the reason why a lot of people are not using Valkyrie is because they're using the evac tower and they're just using it to rotate instead of her. Now, I will say this though, I feel like at a certain point the evac tower will be less used and more people will start using Valkyrie down the line, because not many people know how to properly shoot down an evac tower, right? Because you can actually 3-2-1 an evac tower with your team and break it before anyone even takes it. However, there's not a lot of people who know how to fully utilize that right now in ranked, especially in pubs. And of course, on top of that too, you just get a free rotate in, so that's a big reason. But Valkyrie's still really good. Once people do figure out how to fully counter that, then I feel like we're going to see a lot more play with her, and then back in S tier 100%. But it's just unfortunate the evac tower is having such a meta-defying feature in the game. But I will say this though, her passive is still amazing. They can go into the game, see where everyone lands around you. You get highlights, especially when you rotate to off an evac tower. And on top of that too, you can use your own ultimate to reposition yourself on any given point. And you also have her tactical, which honestly is probably the weakest tactical in the game. Like, yeah, it's good. It's better for more just like, hey, you know, this guy's like 50% below health. You like tack them, and then you can knock them in the process. You can like roughen them up if they're behind cover to force them on out of it. But most times around, you can just eat a Valkyrie tactical, so there's no reason to ever move from it. So that's kind of the problem with it. Literally, all they have to do to make Valkyrie insane again is give her more height than the evac tower to rotate from. Then the second thing is too, is to actually increase the damage you do with the actual tactical. And then if you make it those two changes in themselves, she will be an absolute menace in the actual meta. But I don't think we're honestly going to see that. I'm surprised at how hard they nerf Valkyrie, and then Lily, they replaced her with the evac. So yeah, that's why she's on A tier, unfortunately. The next legend in A tier is Fuse. Now, Fuse is one of those legends that honestly a lot of dads play, and honestly I don't blame him. He's got a pretty good kit if you want to actually have a good kit for ranked, but also have a good kit for pubs. His tactical is one of the things I would say is absolutely amazing about him, because literally you can mess up somebody's whole cover, you can mess up catalyst walls, you can literally just toy with people when they're behind cover. That can actually be very good for you to actually knock people, or just make it so the enemy team won't actually reposition themselves or won't force up on you. That's the good thing about his tech. His tack, if you utilize it right, is probably the most insane thing in his kit. Now, his ultimate's weird because, like, yeah, it's really good. You can see, like, everyone inside your ultimate, and they combo it with an age, you can make it way bigger, too, but not many people can utilize it, and there's also a timing thing on that, so it's, like, not that good. I do feel like his ultimate is probably the weakest thing in his kit. However, if you are a good Fuse man and you understand how to use it properly, it can be one of his stronger attributes, or for blocking entrances in hallways. So that's something good about it. Then on top of that, you guys tactical, not tactical, passive, where you can carry more nades, and also you can just like stick people faster with nades than normally. So yeah, I don't know. Furious is one of those characters, like it's an S tier, not an S tier, an A tier legend, but he has the potential to honestly be an S tier legend. But the thing that's really holding back his kit, I feel like most times around, is literally his ultimate. His ultimate is like so niche that doesn't make sense. And Conduit's ultimate is way better just because it has way more range. And literally, if he uses like ultimate had more range to it and did a little bit more damage, I feel like it would be something that would be absolutely scary to deal with. Next up in A tier, we have one of the first control legends, which is Caustic. Caustic is one of the better actual control legends you can use in ranked, because literally, if you're end game and you need to post up in building, you can lock it down with Caustic traps, and you can get a lot of them, so you have to keep in mind. So you can literally have a whole gassed up building, and no one's really going to challenge a Caustic in his own building. So that's the good thing about him, and especially his ultimate's really strong too. It can really flush people out of certain situations. But besides that though, Caustic is not really that as strong as compared to when he was first released, where now you can break his traps if you shoot them a number of times. In the past, once a trap was triggered, it wouldn't have been able to be broken, and that's why he's not as strong as he used to be. There's honestly better legends you can play to control a building, and that's what we're getting into the next one, Watson. Now Watson is honestly one of the better legends to use in actually ranked, because you can control a building, no one's going to really challenge you if you lock it up good, and you can do some really cheeky angles with for actual fences that makes it harder for them to actually be broken. And also you get the Watson gen, which can completely negate Gibby ult and also Bangalore ult and any single nade. So if you were to get flushed out with nades, you know what you can do? You know, you'll get completely negated with that Watson ult. So that's what really makes her super strong, is just that ultimate on top of it. She's definitely one of the best actual control legends in the game right now, by far. I will say though, she has definitely the weakest passive in the game though. She literally has like Octane passive, where it gives you shields instead of health, but it's super weak. The next legend in A tier is Wraith. Now, Wraith was originally going to be an S tier legend. However, she's not that strong this season. Like, her tactical takes too long to activate. It's still very good, but it's equivalent to playing chess. You got to play smart, actually utilize it right, go for picks here and there. But within ranked, you're very limited in what you can do. She's still a very fun legend to play in pubs, similar to have Octane. So that's why they're like still really good, and they're still really the hardcore fans' go-to legends. But besides that, though, she doesn't really have much on your kit besides her actual like ultimate. Now, she does have her passive, which lets you know if you're getting aimed at, but most times around, you don't hear it because it doesn't trigger. So that's kind of the problem with it. I do think she is still a great legend. If they all they have to do to fix her is change her actual passive, and on top of that, make her actual activation time for tactical half the time that it is now, or instantaneous. If they do that, that'd be amazing. But there's add a longer cooldown time on it. And then she'd be honestly such an insane legend to deal with. She's still pretty good, but honestly, she's not as good as what she once was. The next legend in actual A tier is actually Pathfinder. Now, Pathfinder is one of those legends that is honestly good for anyone to learn. You can really learn him really easily, but he also has a lot more potential with his tactical. If you actually practice movement mechanics with him, he can become a really insane threat to actually deal with if you're a skilled enough Pathfinder. And that's like it's Timmy and stuff like that, where they're doing some like atypicals or do some other crazy shit. But you do not want to verse a good Pathfinder, because those are the kind of guys who know what they're doing and they'll have the game sense. But his ultimate is honestly still insane. They actually made it way better originally when they actually buffed it recently, but it's still very good now. It's like, I don't know how long it is, but literally you can travel a distance within a few seconds of an Octane pad. Like, if you're going to play a legend for ranked, for movement, and also just repositioning, Pathfinder would be your guy, just because of the fact his zips literally are zip rails now because how fast they go. And on top of that too, you can literally get an ultimate as long as you see an actual care package, you scan it. You of course get your ultimate from it, which is insane to think about. And they fixed it where actually if your teammates scan the care package, you wouldn't be able to scan it for yourself. So you can now still scan a package even after they scan it, so that way you can get your ultimate from it. So yeah, just like care packages that you missed out on, you have access to them now. So Pathfinder is honestly one of the best legends to play if you are looking for someone who want to gradually improve over time and be actually a skilled player. He's that kind of character. Now for the final legend in actual A tier is actually Loba, surprisingly. Now Loba was actually a character that I honestly thought could be an S tier legend, because her kit is honestly insane. If you can literally black market steal anything from your opponents, you of course get early game loot very on. You can use it for armor swaps late game, steal ammos late game, steal heals late game. You can do so much with her ultimate. It's just disrespectful. And her Q is literally a get out of free card. If you're in a situation you dip from a fight, you can Q Q out. Or if you want to reposition yourself, you can use your Q, but you gotta be careful because it's like a double-edged sword. Like if you Q into a fight, you gotta at least be smart on how you use it. And on top of that too, you of course can just activate her passive, which lets you see all the good stuff around the map. But honestly, late game, it doesn't really matter. So she is definitely an A tier legend, definitely like top of the board. I could honestly put her in S tier. They literally changed her actual passive. Now we got our first S tier legend, and this is actually the bottom of S tier. Is Conduit. Now Conduit, it's the newer legends of the game, of course. Now honestly, originally I thought she was gonna be top of A tier, but I feel like her kit is so good that if you utilize her tactical right, you can actually just be able to survive so many more fights than you normally would. Now, keep in mind, her tactical gives you shield to you and your teammates around you. And of course, when you have these actual shields, you'll be able to like counter a third party that might come at you. You can get a reset off. You don't have to pop bats. You can save heals. And if you play it smart and utilize the timing right, you can do so much more with this. Now, the problem with her being at the bottom of S tier, I do feel like she could be way more than bottom. She could be honestly near the middle, is that most people don't know how to utilize her tactical right, or even the teammates. So let's say you have a teammate, right? And you want to actually go into a fight. You go into a fight, he gets cracked, you pop your Conduit tactical. They pop a bat on top of it. You should not need to pop a bat when a Conduit attack you. You should go dive and finish the fight, because you have a lot of time on that, and as long as you're going into a fight and watching the timing on it, you can actually finish up a fight before it actually wears off. Then you can literally just armor swap off the guy. But so many people don't know how to utilize the tack timing right, and or just heal over it, that they'll just waste her actual tactical right. Now once people start utilizing her actual tactical right, yourself and your teammates, I do think she's going to be an absolute menace to deal with. And she has a ultimate that's similar to Fuse's, but that's a lot more versatile, where in buildings you control block entrances and exits. You can lock down a building with it, like with Watson fences. You can of course block off enemies and make them rotate a different direction. And there's so much more with her. She's just so freaking good. And you got to keep in mind, she literally has Bangalore's passive, but on 2 times the speed, because as long as your teammates are somewhat far away, you can catch up to them with a 23% movement increase, which is just crazy. I'm just gonna say this: all they need to fix her is literally change her actual passive timing, because like you have to be really far for the actual trigger. So they literally fix that, she'll be insane. And then on top of that too, once people understand how to utilize the timings right on actual attack, I do feel like she can be below S tier. Like she's like in between A and S tier, and the only reason I'm putting on S tier is because she just has the potential. Our next S tier legend is actually Horizon. Now, Horizon did receive a nerf, and she's honestly still a really good legend. I don't think like she's gonna be as strong as she once was, but you can still like take height with her. You can force enemies out of his positioning with actually her ultimate and pull them and actually knock people. Her ultimate's definitely like the most disrespectful thing if you get caught in it. And on top of that too, like, she has a passive 0G, which gives you a huge advantage. Land off rev, passive abuse, and then you literally just take all the guns on the ground. No one can challenge you. She's just such a good legend. But honestly, she's not as strong as she once was because of actually the nerf to her tactical. They keep nerfing her where they give more and more recoil when you go up the queue. But honestly, a lot of people keep adapting to it. And she's one of those legends like Wraith and Octane where no one will ever actually stop playing her. And you can't just nerf her into the ground because how her actual kit works. I feel like they're going to find that sweet spot. And when they find that sweet spot, she'll be guaranteed an S tier legend no matter what. Next up for S tier legends, we got Catalyst. Now, Catalyst did receive an actual nerf to her actual passive. Instead of being able to block 3 doors, she can only block 2, which doesn't really matter because she can just lock down 2 and you use your other 2 tacticals to block the other 2 doors. So she's definitely the best control legend in the game to lock down and build and controlling it. And you can't really break down a Catalyst door. Like, you need a 3-man it just to actually be quick about it. But if one person tries to challenge a Catalyst, most times around, you won't be able to do squat against her, especially the fact that you can literally just place your tech under the door and literally they can't like break it because the actual part you need to break it's in the center, right? And you put that on your side of the door. So yeah, they're just gonna get hurt over time. And the most annoying thing about this tactical too, and the most disrespectful about it, is let's say you're holding a door with Conduit or Catalyst, wrong one. You can actually place it under the door, and then they're trying to heal up on that door, right? They'll take damage, and that might knock them in the process, or they'll scare them away for you to clip them with an R9 or something like that. Like, oh my god, she's so good. And people utilize her wall too to actually just challenge a team to force them up. Like, putting up a Conduit wall is like equivalent to Bloodhound ulting. It scares the enemy because they know, oh my god, they're actually contesting this, they're actually challenging us. But you can also use in the aspect of actually, hey, I need cover the reposition, and everyone in the lobby is looking at us. You put up that wall, no one's going to be able to see you because it's black. It's really, really hard to see through it, and no one can really see in through it. And you can scan legends it, but They fixed it where you can't actually scan through it with Seer ult and a few other things. So yeah, she's just insane. She's literally just an insane legend to go up against, and especially when she's controlling a building, you do not want to contest one. The final legend in S tier is Bangalore, baby. You know, they nerfed her actual ultimate with sometimes less, which honestly helps her in the long run. They actually nerfed her activation time and how long her actual double time passive moves by like 1 second, which is honestly silly. And then on top of that too, they nerfed the smoke time. Now the smoke time was like, I think it was like 23 seconds or something like that, and it's like 16 now, which is still insane. Like, you have cover with Bangalore. Now Digi's not on the crafter, but honestly, you make up with your skill. If you're a Bangalore main, just honestly, pro tip, turn your graphic settings for actual I think it's effects on the low, and you'll be able to see through your bang smokes most times around because of the fact of how it works. But yeah, besides that though, Bangalore is still an insane legend even after the nerf in season 19. She's just an insane legend that's always been really balanced, and the only reason they nerfed her is because of the fact they knew that Bangalore was still a very good legend. It's just a lot of people were starting to notice, hey, she's still very strong. Get a Digi, go crazy. And that was the only reason why they nerfed her. But even then, even after the nerf, she's still the best legend by far in Apex Legends. But what do you guys think about my tier list? Do you guys disagree? My best and worst legends takes? Do you think one legend can be better than the other? Or which legends would you actually rate best to worst? Let me know in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed my video here today, make sure to smash the like button, get subscribed so you don't miss on future Apex Legends content. I'll see you guys for another one. G-Man out.